Buckle up. Hi, Tony. How are you? Good, thanks.
Okay, everybody, we are live and on camera, so could I have a roll call, please?
Mr. Stepanovich,
Here.
Mr. Case,
Here.
Ms. Brockway,
Here.
Mr. McKenna,
Here.
Mr. Spadaro, Mr. Dice,
Here.
Dr. Lee Corns,
Here.
Mayor Sinan.
Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, Mr. Morrison, do we have any unlisted amendments this evening?
We have one, Mr. President, 14A will not require action this evening.
Okay, note 14A. That brings us to our consent calendar items, the approval of the October 20th minutes. Are there any questions or concerns about the minutes?
Nope.
Hearing none, can I have a motion, please?
So move for the consent calendar items.
Second.
Thank you, Tony and Carl. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay. Ms. Conlon?
President?
Yes.
We have two public hearings this evening.
Okay.
On the proposed amendment to the 21 budget and then the operating budget for 2022.
Okay, I just want to get the preliminaries out of the way.
Sure.
Now we can just jump into the hearings. Now, are we going to have a stenographer or just go right into it?
Now, just go right ahead.
Okay, then at this time, let the minutes reflect that we will begin a public hearing for the amendments to the 2021 operating budget. Jim, Diane?
Every year, as we go through the annual review and the budget, we do monthly reports, and that goes to every department, and council gets them as well. We determine throughout the year if there is a specific department that is going to exceed their total budget allotment. It's not necessarily line by line, but it's the total allocation to that department. So come September, I decided that some of the departments were going to need some additional funding. Some departments had extra, so I was able to do the budget amendments for the 2021 operating budget by simply moving allocations around to the various departments. There were some revenue line items that came in higher than expected, and there were some line items like interest that I was very optimistic, and that didn't happen. That needed to be decreased. So overall, if you look at the sheet that you were given, those are the various allocations that were changed by line item. The administrative department was mainly because the replacement that was to be hired early in the year for Jim's position wasn't. So that was almost $100,000 that was saved at that point. We had money in for the engineering consultant in case Emily needed assistance. She used very little of that, so we had savings there. Some contracted services exceeded budget line items, so we added money there. The police department, we have two officers, one on medical leave, one in Kuwait, I believe, for the rest of the year. That will increase our overtime for November and December because of all the holidays. The community development department, we had a planner planned to be hired, which did not occur, and we had professional services added in there in case he would need assistance just becoming familiar with the codes and operations of the municipality. Since that hiring didn't occur, we didn't need that professional service, so those items are decreased also. The recreation department had some increases due to a healthcare benefit and miscellaneous supplies and advertising. And we had additional costs in park maintenance this year. We increased the number of porta-johns that were left in the parks for the whole year, utility costs, and some repairs of building maintenance. Those positives and negatives were offset with some additional money that came in with delinquent tax claims, with transfer tax, and refunds and insurance reimbursements, which are money that we get if there's a damage to property, we'll claim the insurance. If we get reimbursed from the other people's insurance company, that is what that line item covers. So all in all the amendments to the general fund just increased revenues and expenses by $20,000. The adjustments to the capital reserve were mainly to move around projects that weren't able to be completed this year and reserve the money for next year. So it was Meadowbrook Road slide, the Sardis Logan Ferry Road intersection, repairing the roofs at the Public Works building and the salt bin, the amphitheater at MCP, repairing sections of Duff Trail. 2 bridges are needing repair down there, and to redo the playground at Padora Park. We're going to buy the playground equipment this year, but the years run out, so we don't have time to do the actual installation and repair the parking lot and the wall that surrounds that playground. So that will be deterred till next year. So all the projects that were postponed, the funding has been reserved for those projects to occur next year. So the capital reserve balances, all I did was take the expense out and keep the money on reserve.
Okay, so that was in regards to the budget amendments specifically. So are there any questions or concerns about the budget amendments specifically? No. Okay. Is there any public comment on the budget amendments specifically? There will be time to speak about the other issues on the agenda tonight. And just for the good of the order, is there anyone who would like to speak on the budget amendments specifically? Okay. Do we need any action on this? No. Okay. All right.
We will later in the meeting, but.
Yeah, not right now. Okay. Could I have a motion to close the public hearing for the budget amendments?
Excuse me.
Oh,
Are you accepting comments on the whole budget itself?
not at this time. That will be a public comment for the, yeah, we're going to have a public hearing on the budget itself next. Yes, ma'am. Okay. Motion to close the public hearing on the budget amendments specifically.
Make a motion to close the public hearing on the budget amendment.
Second.
Those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Closed. We are now going to have our public hearing for the 2022 operating budget. Diane?
Okay, did you bring your yellow? There's copies on the front where that gentleman's sitting if anybody wants to follow along. This is the 22 general operating budget. The total proposed budget is $15,700,000. Of that, the general fund is $9,500,000, and the capitals are $3,500,000. Debt service payment remains at $417,000. The value of a meal for 2022 is estimated to be around $334. This is actually less than what it's been the last couple of years, and we believe that's because of the common level ratio declining and the numerous number of assessment appeals that we're receiving on a daily basis. The 2022 budget actually includes additional revenue this year of an earned income tax increase from 0.5 to 0.7. And what that will bring in roughly $1,600,000, which will be used to fund general operations. The budget also includes additional real estate taxes in the amount of $610,000, which will be used to fund capital projects, specifically road improvements and capital purchases. The reason we dedicated them that way is the general fund has limited areas that funds can be cut without affecting services, where the capital projects can be added or postponed as needed. And we felt that the real estate transfer taxes, along with some of the real estate revenue that will go into the capital, will better fund those projects on an annual basis. The total overall millage will stay at 12.15 mills. Some of the additional monies that we are receiving from the addition into the earned income will help fund capital projects, as I said, It will help fund the emergency equipment purchase that are needed for the fire departments. It will help fund the library, Medic One, and the hydrant fund. Some of the decisions to change the basis of how we're receiving revenue is based on the comparison of real estate versus earned income. Earned income is pretty much a steady source of revenue, and it will remain our primary funding source for the general fund. It kind of fluctuates if the economy fluctuates, but it stays pretty stable, and we've been able to keep our revenues and expenses stable at 2 or 2.5%. So we believe that using the earned income as the source of money for the general fund will be a more realistic source of revenue. The real estate has been our main source, and it stopped being the main source of revenue in probably 2012. Since 2012, we probably increased maybe 4% in revenue because of the common level ratio, which I'm not sure if you understand what that is, but the state determines every year a common level ratio, and that's applied to new construction. So I built my house in 1989. The common level ratio was 0.2. My house is, let's say it's worth $100,000, I would be assessed at $20,000. If you built that same house today and it's worth $400,000, the common level ratio now is, I'm sorry, let's say the house today is still worth $100,000, but the common level ratio is 0.12. So that assessment is now $12,000. So it doesn't matter how many homes get built in Murrysville, the common level ratio is depleting the real estate value, so we're not getting that anymore. So it doesn't make common sense to use a regressive tax to pay a progressive community's expenses. So we felt that moving to the earned income was a better source, a more stable source of funding going forward. The real estate transfer tax, if it continues as it has, it will bring in roughly 3 mills of taxes. We felt that that would be better geared towards capital projects, road improvements, equipment purchases, things that if need be, if the real estate didn't come in at the level that it could, maybe a truck could be pushed forward a year, or a road will have less miles done. So we tried to logically decide where these funding sources should go so that they were available for the projects that needed to be done. Some of the exemptions that we used in this year, all the personnel costs went up based on the contracts, which is roughly around 3%. We're in public negotiations with Public Works Department right now. We have a minimum amount in salary increases there, and we don't really expect the benefit costs to be much higher in that department when we're finished. Healthcare costs for the administration and police officers is expected to go up 6%. Property and casualty insurance is to go up about 5%. Overall, our utilities are expected to go up around 10%. We don't get as much fire and casualty insurance allocations from the state that we used to get, and that was used to help fund the pension plans and to give money to the 3 fire departments for their Firemen's Relief Association. Those are going to decrease. The money that goes to the firemen really doesn't affect the budget. If we get $100,000, they get $100,000, but whatever is decreased from the foreign casualty adds the cost to the municipality for the pension. Our Public Works Department is seeing excessive cost increases in supplies such as pipe and asphalt and stone. Equipment parts have went up 25% since May. Gasoline costs also have went up about 15%. That's my department that's seen the largest increase in supplies. Park maintenance costs also have went up with the utilities, increase in the portage-on rentals, the maintenance in the buildings. Basically, the other costs stayed within 1.5% to 2%. In our capital budget, we have $3.4 million. That includes $1.8 million in road projects, including the slide repair on Meadowbrook Road and engineering design for the Sardis-Logan Ferry intersection. 2 roofs on the Public Works facility and the salt bin need to be repaired. There's vehicle replacements for both the Police and Public Works Department. We usually get around $1 million, $1.2 million in liquid fuels. We're now getting around $850,000. That goes specifically for road overlay projects. So the real estate transfer tax will assist with that also. We're expected to get a DCNR grant close to $300,000 that will be used for the construction of the amphitheater. And the balance of those costs will be paid from the borrowing that we took out in 2017 specifically for those projects. Other items that are included in the budget are the real estate taxes that were sent over to the special purpose funds that will be reserved for the emergency equipment fund. That will help pay for the fire trucks that they'll be purchasing in the next 5 years. Next year, there's a truck for Murrysville Fire Department, $1.5 million, I believe. This fund, the real estate taxes in this fund help pay for those vehicles. Medic One annually gets roughly $63,000 to use for a vehicle, and the library will get around $334,000, which is roughly 72% of their budget. That's basically it. The other funds, our debt service has been the same. We have a 15-year loan. It's at 2.75%. The final payment will be on 2031, unless it was refinanced sooner. Right now, we sit owing $3,600,000. Any questions?
Okay.
Yeah.
Carl.
The liquid fuels tax, not tax, but reimbursement, is that projected to be more in '22?
No, it's going down around 2 to 3% a year because people are driving less. They're using more fuel-efficient cars, so the less gas that's used, the lower that tax will be.
Oh, hold on. We're not to the public comment part yet. Are there any other questions or concerns from council at this time?
Just as a comment, the common level ratio, that's set by the state, is that correct? Is that set by county?
Yes,
Okay. So Allegheny could possibly be different or is different than Westmoreland?
yes.
It is different.
It is different.
Very different.
Even Fayette County is different than Westmoreland. They're all,
Okay.
The longer that the county waits to assess the properties, the quicker the common level ratio declines. So, for example, Washington County, which we assessed recently, Butler County, I believe, Allegheny County, their common level ratio is 1.0 because there's a fair assessment of the value of property. Whereas you have counties like Westmoreland and some counties out in the eastern part of the state that haven't reassessed, in particular in Westmoreland County since 1972, the rates are much, much lower on the common level ratio.
And
I might add that this is staff's recommendation to council for the increase in the earned income tax and the real estate transfer tax. Other alternatives were evaluated, including an increase in the real estate tax, which is presented as part of the budget message. To meet the requirements of the 2022 budget as proposed would require a $5 million increase in taxes in 2022, and an additional $2 million in 2024. We also evaluated the impact if no tax millage or increase in the real estate transfer earned income was not accomplished, and outlined recommended areas where services could be cut and fees increased to make that up. The position of the staff is that the real estate tax is a very regressive tax, and it obviously, given the situation we are, being in Westmoreland County without the reassessment, and what Diane didn't mention was the unprecedented number of real estate tax appeals that we're seeing, successful real estate tax appeals, mainly because of the level of millage assessed by the school district. People don't realize that the majority of their real estate tax bill, probably 80% or more, is real estate tax going to the school district. So they try to appeal their taxes. They have been successful in many instances. We've had some commercial properties, some big taxpayers being successful in appeals. And that all goes into the thinking of this being a very regressive tax and not being able to keep pace with the normal inflationary rates that are experienced mainly in the overhead expenses that we have here, as Diane cited, whether it be materials for Public Works Department, utilities, insurances. Those are increasing at a rate faster than a real estate tax. The earned income tax is a fundamental change for the municipality in a way to raise revenue to keep pace with costs that are beyond the control of the municipality. As Diane has stated, generally we see somewhere between 1.5% to 3%, depending on the economy, increases in the real estate tax. Well, typically the inflation will follow the economy. And so those increases in earned income tax year over year compensate for those increases that are experienced in the overhead expenses, and is a much better form of revenue to be funding general fund operations. As she said, most of the flexibility in the budget comes into the capital program. We're a service organization here. We need people to deliver the level of services that we deliver here. If we don't pave a road one year, well, it gets a little worse. We have to spend a little money the next year, but if the funds aren't there, we don't do it. The same with emergency, same with equipment. We take that out of the life cycle costing, extend it out another year. We might save the money that year, but we exchange the money for maintenance costs on that equipment. So there is a need. If there is the desire to continue to deliver the level of services that is expected in this community, we have to find a revenue source that will keep pace with the increase in the overhead cost. And that's why we recommended the earned income tax.
Okay. Other questions or concerns from council at this point? Nope. All right. Hearing none, can we have public comment specifically on the operating budget?
Comments or questions?
Comments, but let's start with Miss Susan Long, who signed up first, and then we'll, for the good of the order, bring up everyone else.
Thank you.
And I'll just say, if you could keep it to 3 minutes or less. Thank you, ma'am.
Absolutely. My name is Susan Long. I'm here as both a resident of Murrysville and also a community volunteer to express my support for the proposed increase for the earned income tax and the real estate transfer.
Sorry, 1 second.
Yeah.
Better?
Yep, you're live now.
We got all that, right?
Yeah.
If you could say your address too, your residential address.
Susan Long, 5059 Impala Drive, Murrysville, 15668. So first, as a resident, my husband Russ and I have lived here for over 31 years. We came for the quality of the schools. We stayed for the quality of the community. That's my line. We understand that these quality services require funding, and we also understand that the demographics have changed. And thank you very much for providing that explanation, especially related to the real estate taxes. So we understand that no one enjoys paying taxes, but I do support the increases that have been proposed, and I know that Jim and Diane and council have been predicting this for a number of years, for those of us that have followed along. So I like this place so much that I decided to volunteer, and I'm proud to serve as the president of the board for Murrysville Community Library, and prior to that, I served as the treasurer on that board for 6 years. The municipality's funding enables the library to serve the community, and we work hard to make sure that we do that in a cost-effective manner. And I invite you to review our annual report, which is found on our website, which details the services that we've been able to provide to the community over the last year. Basically, funding matters. My final comment is to make sure everyone knows, and this is for Jim, that this is board application season. And for anyone who is interested in getting more involved in the community, and helping to drive the type of community that we are, I invite them to look at the number of board seats that are available, the EAC, the FTMSA, the library, which is my favorite board, of course, Personnel, Parks and Rec Planning, and the Zoning Hearing Board. And all of that information is available on Murrysville's website. So thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Ms. Long. For the good of the order, is there anyone else who would like to give comment on the 2022 operating budget? Mr. Nader, I think you raised your hand first. Please come to the mic so people at home can hear you. Thank you. And just state your name and address.
Hi there, I'm David Nader, 3015 Lexington Court in Export, Murrysville, Municipality. You hear words like regressive, progressive, fancy words about the direction of tax revenue. But I also heard you say something along the lines of, if we raised the municipal millage tax or 5% or 5 mills and 2 mills a couple years from now, that's what it would take to offset not increasing the earned income tax. But the earned income tax is a much easier form of revenue. It's withheld from people's paychecks. It's a discriminatory tax, Jim, counsel. But so what's the big objection to increasing the municipality tax, the millage that would be necessary to not increase tax on just a subset of our community? That's my question, and I don't understand how any of you could not see that that's discrimination when you charge a subset of a community for a benefit or a shortfall of the whole community. It just makes no sense. But everyone loves it. Oh, they just love it. But it's literally discrimination. And you would go down as the council that will always be remembered that you discriminated against our community, the members, our residents. I don't even know how you could imagine seeing it any other way, but you do. Don't take the easy way out, Jim. Take the right way. A municipality issue is a municipality issue, not an income tax issue. You raise the millage on the entire community, not income tax on the subset of it, whether you're employed or not, or retired or not.
Okay, I have a comment for you.
Sure, please do.
So I've lived in my community for 30 years. I have no children. I pay school tax every year.
I know you do.
Isn't that discriminatory?
You know, you
Isn't
might
it
think,
discriminatory?
you may think that it is, but it benefits the
Why?
whole community, doesn't it?
No.
Oh, yes, it
doesn't benefit
does.
me at all.
No, it just doesn't benefit your non-children.
I don't
It
have
benefits
any
our
children.
community to put out people who are educated, who can bring jobs to our community.
So
I knew you were going to say that.
So you think seniors that are 80 years old on a fixed income should continue to pay for a school district?
That's absolutely the way it's been for how many years? 100?
Trying to change it, sir.
Oh, of course you are.
Make it more,
You want to flip-flop it. You're saying it was okay, it wasn't okay before, but it's going to be okay now, is what you're saying.
Time.
Okay. Thank you. Could you? Oh, that's not a problem, ma'am. If you could just state your name and address for the record for our minutes.
I'm Susan Reese Hartzell, and I live at 4959 Hunter Drive in Murrysville. And I've been a resident for 58 years, and I've always worked in Murrysville. I've owned a company for 35 years, a real estate company, and then sold out to Berkshire Hathaway and continue to work in Murrysville as a broker for real estate. And I've done a lot of listing and selling of residential properties and property management. And the reason I'm here is because I feel that the transfer tax should not be increased. Home ownership is really important to me. I actually volunteer for the National Association of Realtors and the Pennsylvania Association of Realtors and my local association to help raise funds to try to fight for property rights and homeowners to be able to have that American dream. So in my mind, someone who's buying a house, I've watched young couples and even second-time home buyers, they want to get into the buying market. The costs continue to go up. The price of housing continues to go up. And to have an additional increase in the transfer tax on top of all the other expenses is going to be difficult for people, more difficult to get into their first or second home sometimes. A lot of people are going FHA and VA, and the sellers are actually paying those costs. So now not only will they be paying an increase on the buyer's side, but they're going to pay an increase on their side as well. So I also feel that, a lot of people think, well, if they can't afford to buy, they could rent. But in Murrysville, doing property management, the average rent is around $1,800 a month. I mean, that's really a mortgage payment. So I think, let's help keep the costs down and help people get into homes instead of leasing. And I also feel that it's better to have more of a constant taxation than have this transfer stamp where you can't predict, how much money will be coming in because it's going to change with the real estate market. So I'm hoping that we find another way. I'm living here as a resident. I enjoy all the benefits. The community, does a really great job on providing services, and the schools are great, and I'm willing to pay for them, but I would rather it not be the transfer stamp. I think that's about it, but I thank you for your time, and hope you make the right decision.
Thank you, ma'am. Okay. Anyone else? Ms. Kearns?
Joan Kearns, 4997 Longview Court. A lot of what I had planned to say has been said by Jim, said by Diane, said by Ms. Long. As a resident of Murrysville since 1975, and having had 2 sons in school, the last one graduated in 1985, we have paid school taxes every year since 1975 and will continue to do so as long as we own a home here. People move to Murrysville because they want good roads. They want a safe community. Pardon me, they want. If you want, it costs money. Just as we are seeing increasing costs in our daily lives, whether it be in our utility bills, whether it be in our grocery bills, whether it be in our car. Municipality experiences the same thing. And I spent 18 years going through the budget every year, looking at where the money was going, questioning where necessary, and always getting a very valid, very well-based answer. So I know from many years of experience that this municipality does not waste money. Sometimes I question where those dollars are going and if it really makes sense. But in the long run, it does make sense. So for people who are questioning this budget, I ask you to take a look at the elephant in the room on Monday nights, the one with the very, very voracious appetite. It raises taxes every blessed year, whether you have children in school, whether you don't have children in school. It's part of living in a community. Face it, if you don't like it, move to a community that does not have what we have here. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Kearns. For the good of the order, are there any other public comments specific to our 2022 operating budget? Okay. Seeing no others, Council, Jim, Diane, anything else before I close the public hearing? Okay. Motion to close the public hearing on the operating budget.
Motion to close the public hearing on the 2022 operating budget.
Second.
Let's go Carl and Tony Brockway. Okay, we'll close that hearing. That brings us to our agenda items. We did do the preliminaries of approving the meeting minutes, which brings us to comments by the mayor. Mayor Simon?
Thanks, Mr. Dice. We have one slide this evening. Jim's putting it up for
Oh, I'm sorry, Mayor.
He's busy over there.
There we go.
There we go. There's going to be a presentation at the library it's called Pittsburgh's Impact on the World. It's presented by the Senator John Hines History Center. It'll be Monday, November 15th at 7 p.m. Again, it's here at the library. For more information, check the website, 4100 Sardis Road for you at home above the municipal building. That's the only announcement I have tonight, but I'm going to give you a little report of what occurred here about a week ago. We have to have a drill, an annual drill for our Murrysville Export Emergency Management Agency, and Chuck Tappy, our police captain, who also serves as our emergency management coordinator, conducted it here in this room as a tabletop drill on October 26th from 0800 to 1500 hours. The full team was activated for it was supposedly a gas leak at the new Titan well on Bollinger Road. So the Emergency Management Agency coordinated with Olympus Energy and Forefront Emergency Management to manage and coordinate an emergency response to an incident that occurred at the drill site. Following the National Incident Command System, the three teams coordinated with each other's counterparts, unified command, planning, operations, safety, logistics, finance, and public information. Each section conducted breakout sessions to determine the best resolution of the drill. A simulated joint press conference was held and a joint news release was produced and agreed upon for relief. Information sharing from the Export Murrysville Committee to Olympus was fruitful for each team. The leadership from Olympus contracted emergency management company Forefront EM for professional services and decisive action. The MEMA EOC was at its best. All the technology was up and running at full capacity thanks to our IT, me and Mike Heiler. There were about 50 people in attendance. One change that was made that's been going on for a long time here is when the Emergency Management Center is activated here, you used to come here and pull out about 12 ceiling tile, look for the phone wires, and then plug them into the phones on this desk. And then you had to go to the municipal building in the back room and remember which 15 pair of phone wires it was and take them off the jacks on the wall and put them on the other jack. Well, since Mr. Tappy's now in charge, he's resolved that problem now. All the phone jacks are back here on the wall the way they're supposed to be, and one switch changes everything. That basically all the phones in the municipal building get dedicated right here to this table, and because you could have a very large volume of phone calls during something like that. So they're all sent right here, and the staff that's here can wait on it and fix it. In finishing, Chuck said he was very proud of MEMA's professional conduct and networking with the two other teams. And we got a note from the Olympus Vice President of Communication. Thanks again for your hospitality and partnership with us on the incident drill this week. The entire Olympus team was impressed with your team facility and capability and very grateful to be able to work with you. If you have any suggestions for improvement or lessons learned for our team, please let me know. I'm very happy to read you that report. Thank you. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Mayor, and big thanks to Mr. Tappy. That's amazing. Okay, that brings us to comments by the Chief Administrator. Mr. Moore.
I have one comment, Mr. President. Again, leaf and yard debris pickup will be November 13th. If you have leaves, make sure they're in paper bags. I recommend you put them out the night before, if possible, or very early in the morning because they come through very quickly. And if you have a pickup, I would recommend that you call the office, 327-2100 extension 101, and notify Patty that you have a pickup, and we can pass that along to Republic Services. Some instances in the past, people put them out. They're the only person on the street. The guy doesn't get on the street, so hopefully that'll eliminate the problem. Thank you.
Hey, just as a question, Jim.
Yes, sir.
Has it ever been considered, my granddaughter lived in Little Rock here a couple years ago. They would come with a truck that had like a big claw hammer, meaning you'd get all your leaves, you wouldn't put them in bags, you just get them in one big area, and it would come down. And I think they had some water they could, like, you know, douse, if you will, the leaves, and they'd just pick it up. And that was part of the community service. Is there Anything that Republic does like that you're aware of?
No.
Because that would eliminate the need to put things in the bag, that's...
There have been some communities that have attempted that with street sweepers and vac machines and haven't had a whole lot of success. People tend to pull their leaves out onto the street, and given the time of the year it is, it gets pretty windy out and usually end up all over the place.
Okay.
Not much success with that.
Okay. That brings us to community input, and this is the part of the meeting where you can give public comment on whatever you like, so long as it is 3 minutes or less. Okay. Mr. Nader?
Yeah, I changed it on in here.
Well, I'm David Nader, 3015 Lexington Court, Export. Mayor, council, and residents. Once again, I'm here representing the thousands of workers who live in the municipality of Murrysville. I stress the word municipality because a municipality is inclusive of all residents, not just a certain group of residents. Therefore, if the municipality has a shortfall in our budget, then it's the entire municipality that should make up for this shortfall, not just a subset of our municipality, which is the case that you're singling out us workers with this proposed earned income tax hike. In the words of my famous cousin, who I'm proud of, consumer advocate Ralph Nader, if you have the courage to go out on a limb and you have something to say for the benefit of all, by all means, stand up, be proud, and say it loud. I am, of course, referring to the dangerous precedent that you're voting on tonight. This would clearly be an act of discrimination by you, Murrysville Council, against just a subset of our residents, our working residents, voting to force them to charge them out of just their pockets to cover the budget shortfall of the entire municipality. That's discrimination, plain and simple. That's about as foolish, in a way, as charging only one half of your children to pay for all the groceries that your entire family eats. We love the way you advertised this in the Penn Franklin newspaper. You used the word, and I'll quote, expanded EIT tax needed to balance the budget. Expanded. Fancy word again. It's a very pleasant word, expanded. It's not a waistline. It's not a balloon. Why didn't you just say clearly what you want to do? Raise the taxes on only the workers in our municipality for the entire municipality's budget shortfall. You have not raised the municipal tax in Murrysville
30 seconds, sir.
in 14 years. Is that a correct statement? Why not? You raise everything else. I'm not sure how much time you spend looking for ways to reduce expenses. I will end by saying it just as I did last time, Council. This is not an income tax issue. This is a municipality issue. This is not an income tax issue. This is a municipality issue. And the municipality tax is what should be raised on the entire municipality. Please don't discriminate against only the workers. Just think through it. It's in your power to do the right thing, so we are asking you to please do exactly that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions?
That brings us to Miss Reitz Hartzell. Okay. Thank you, ma'am. Ms. Kearns? Here we go. Matt Ullman?
My name is Matthew Ackman, 4211 Bulltown Road. I may be a little bit behind the heard in the news where where the CDC, I believe, is approving the vaccine for the COVID-19 vaccines for children between the ages of 5 and 11. And I've come here almost every time talking about the concerns that we have over these vaccinations, and not the fact that the vaccinations are available, but the mandate themselves. So my concern with this approval is that it just won't be vaccines available to children, that they're going to be mandated to children. And so, again, I just implore the board here to do what we can to protect the citizens' rights and as well as safety, is to prevent any form of mandate of these COVID-19 vaccines to our children, as well as adults as well. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. For the good of the order, would anyone else like to give public comment? Okay. That brings us to our liaison comments and committee reports. Let's start with Tony.
Okay, Medic One did meet 2 weeks ago. They had a total of 1,395 trips again. 230 was Washington Township. 442 was wheelchairs and 95 standbys for other communities. I never knew how many people worked at Medic One, because I find out they have about 75 employees, 50 are part-time and 25 are full-time. So I never knew how big their crew was, but so I found out. No masks are required while they're driving their trucks now, unless they have a patient in the truck. The subscription membership, I told you the amount, I think, the last time, but they had 4,012 residents that responded to the fundraiser. They received from Hurricane Ida, which I never knew they would do that, but they had expenses when they went down there for $83,000, and after all that they were awarded, if I could find it here. 1 second. $235,000 they got back, so that was their profit, I guess. And that was from FEMA. I didn't know that FEMA reimbursed them for that, but they do. Also, they were sent down to help the Pittsburgh EMS for 3 Steeler games, and they received $970 per event for that. And that's basically what they did the last time. That's it.
All right, thanks, Tony. Carl?
The Planning Commission will meet next week, and the Parks and Recreation Foundation will meet sometime in the future.
Thank you. Lauren?
EAC was canceled for October due to no new agenda items.
Jamie?
Nothing new to report.
All right.
Couple of highlights of some exciting upcoming events from my friend Amy over at the library. Join the library for open place sessions Tuesdays in November from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. for children ages 0 to 5 years old. They have plenty of fun and educational toys available, plus time to socialize. No registration is required. Come touch a truck at Touch a Truck Storytime on November 5th at 2 p.m. This fun and educational preschool program features a story time about community helpers, along with time to visit with their vehicles live and in person in the library parking lot. Registration is recommended, but walk-ins are also welcome. Dog Reading Pals is back on November 12th between 4 p.m. and 5 p.m. Children are invited to practice reading aloud to dogs on the second Friday of each month. The dog reading program is designed to help emerging readers gain confidence by reading aloud to a non-judgmental dog pal. Pre-readers are welcome too. Registration is required for this one. On November 17th, join the library for a STEM quest at 4 p.m. Come to the library after school for a STEM-themed story and paired activity featuring the library Storytime STEM packs. These programs will be fun and also educational. aligned with specific scientific research and standards. Recommended for children in grades pre-K through 2nd. Registration is required for this also. Come learn about recycling at America Recycle Storytime on November 19th at 10 a.m. Join the Westmoreland Cleanways and Recycling for a special story time and craft celebrating America Recycles Day, recommended for ages 3 through 6 years old. No registration is required. November 20th, there's a lot of programs these guys are doing, so it's awesome. November 20th at 11 a.m. is Pete the Cat Storytime and Party. Do you love Pete the Cat and his groovy stories? This program will feature some of our favorite Pete books for the first half, followed by crafts and activities, and free books for all those who attend. No registration is required. There is a teen advisory board for those of you who aren't aware. Please join the Teen Advisory Board on November 15th at 6 p.m. This board is a group of people ages 12 through 18 who help the library run teen-centered programs, recommend young adult books, movies for the library to buy, promote the library to their friends, and generally help the library better serve teens. And you can learn more about this program at www.murrysvillelibrary.org/teens-services. For adults, couple programs. November 5th at 10:30 for the Culture of Scotland. Learn about the natural beauty of Scotland, history, her people, and more. Demonstrations of the bagpipe and ancient dances of Scotland. Registration is required. Have books that you would like to donate. The AAUW is hosting a book donation drop-off on November 13th from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. in the library's parking lot. They will be accepting in good condition books, CDs, DVDs, games, and records. Proceeds go to the Murrysville Community Library. Join the Murrysville Community Library and Murrysville Recreation Department on Monday, November 15th at 7 p.m. for Pittsburgh's Impact on the World, presented by this, as the mayor said, Senator John Hines History Center. Take a look at innovations that have touched the world that sprouted from the curious minds of Pittsburghers. This program will be held at the Murrysville Municipal Building in the council chambers. Registration is required. And last, just a reminder, we talked about this last time, join artist Norma Rowley on November 20th for a meet and greet between 12 and 2 p.m. Norma will discuss her work currently on display at the library. Registration is not required. And once again, for any of the programs that require registration, you can get there through the Murrysville Library website, www.murrysvillelibrary.org, or call the library at 724-327-1102. And that is it.
Thanks, Tom.
Yes.
Quickly, the bagpipe, is that live? You're gonna have bagpipe?
Susan is, she says yes.
Yeah, okay.
Awesome.
That's cool. Thank you.
Okay.
Parks and Recreation, we meet November 9th. Just a couple quick things with that. Just want to thank Carly and the Parks and Recreation staff for all their hard work here throughout all the season this summer, and then especially just recently. This past weekend was pretty jam-packed for them, and they did a fantastic job. They had the senior Halloween party on Friday. Saturday was an insane day for them, but it went really, really well for the community. We had the rededication of the Veterans Memorial, which was over at the field over here where by the pavilion, and just did a fantastic job. Carly was instrumental in making sure that project happened. And I just want to thank the American Legion, the Boy Scouts, and the volunteers and community members that came, as well as all of our veterans. Thank you for your service. It was a really nice ceremony in the morning that we had there, and it went very well. And then they ran straight from there to the trick-or-treat on the trail. We had 330 kids sign up for that. I thought we'd be dancing between the raindrops, but it worked pretty well for everyone. And just thank you so much to Carly and her staff. It was a ton of work, and it just went really, really well. They had wonderful business volunteers on the tents along the trails. The children, thank you to the Murrysville Police Department for them being there, and they were passing out candy and whatnot. And the volunteers that just helped out with everything, we appreciate it. So again, we meet November 9th, and I'll update at the next meeting. And as always, just everyone keep a lookout. We're always looking for volunteers. If you want to be a member of the boards that are open, or even just contact the Parks and Recreation Department. If you'd like to just be a volunteer for events that they have, you can always use help setting up, taking down, and whatnot. They can put you on a list. If you can come, great. If you can't, that's okay too. So that's it.
All right. Thank you, Mac. Okay, that brings us into our workshop items. Now, 9A is a discussion concerning the amendments to the 2021 operating budget. Now, we already had the public hearing on this. Are there any outstanding questions or concerns? Okay, hearing none, we'll move on to 9B, which is a discussion concerning the 2022 operating budget. Now, we had our public hearing. Any new questions, concerns, anything? Okay.
I have a comment.
Oh, sure.
But I can make it when we get to vote.
Okay, perfect. Okay, now, this one's a little bit more interesting, and this is concerning the leasing of oil and gas rights for approximately 8.43 acres of municipally owned property in Padora Park and the detention pond facility in Springview Plan of Lots. Jim?
Yes, as you're aware, Council, Olympus is preparing a site out on Bollinger Road for the Titan well. The first unit that they're going to drill is from Bollinger, I guess that would be south. And it just so happens that the municipality owns property and gas and oil rights to two parcels that are within that unit. They have contacted us concerning the municipality's interest in leasing those rights. The solicitor has had discussions with them, and at his recommendation, in his opinion, that in order for the municipality to lease the rights, they must be competitively bid. So this would be there's two actions later on the agenda. One, to authorize the staff to solicit proposals for the leasing of those rights. And the second would be to advertise an ordinance awarding those rights. At this time, we don't know what the acreage lease nor the royalties will be. That will be part of the solicitation, the competitive solicitation, and that will be brought forth to council, if so desired, to pass the ordinance agreeing to those terms.
Okay.
Jim has a question. Is there any effect on the above ground?
No. The lease would exclude any above ground activities. This is strictly for the extraction of the gas, and particular to certain layers of gas.
Okay.
Okay, questions, concerns? I mean, I'm in favor of soliciting bids. Are we in agreement? Is everyone okay with that?
Yeah.
Okay. Brings us to Public Works and Parks, which is a discussion concerning neighborhood surveys for the various neighborhood parks throughout the municipality of Murrysville.
Good evening, Council. A few months ago, whenever we were planning rehabilitation of all of our parks, as you probably know, we try to identify a park each year to be rehabbed and maintenanced and just kind of an overhaul in the CIP instead of bouncing around and trying to piecemeal each of the parks and what needs to be done in each of them. Jim had the very good idea not too long ago to just identify each park one at a time instead of bouncing around Public Works to try to get all of those repairs done. So fast forward just a little bit, we were in a staff meeting a few months ago, and Bear Hollow Park came up in conversation about the tennis courts and that they needed to be resurfaced and crack sealed, and that discussion went on, and Bill got some costs for completely overhauling the courts, tearing out everything and starting all over again, instead of chasing ourselves trying to keep up with the crack sealing and everything that's right now on a 3-year rotation. Well, that number was astronomical. So we just put the brakes on and decided that it was maybe a better idea to talk to the residents that live around our neighborhood parks, Bear Hollow, Chambers, Heritage, Padora, and Kovalchik, and learn who's living there, what amenities they're using, what amenities they're not using, and what we need to be investing in instead of just simply replacing what's been there in some of these parks since the 70s. So we decided that trying to survey the residents might be the best way to do that. So I found some nice folks over at Sampson Morris Group that are willing to work with us and have helped us design a postcard that will be mailed to all those residents. And on that will be a link to an online survey, which I have an example of here. It's through SurveyMonkey. It's, I think, 8 questions. It's very, very simple. And for those that aren't comfortable doing an online survey, if you go to Internet Explorer, it should pop up. They are more than able to contact us directly. I have the information at the bottom with my extension. I can field any of those comments or input that they want to give on the amenities they'd like to see in the park. If you want to pass that, they can look at that. I'm passing along a draft of the postcard right now so you can get an idea of what it'll look like. These should roll out relatively soon, hopefully within the next 30 days. We're going to work with Bondi Printing to get them printed and do the bulk mailing. It looks to be about 1,600 addresses, maybe a few less than that, but that will target all the residents directly around those neighborhood parks. But we feel it's important to hear from them because those are more than likely the residents that are using those parks more than anybody else.
To add to it, these parks generally, the original equipment and the activities that were developed in these facilities were part of the original development of the subdivision. And over time, the demands in the facility have changed because of home ownership changeover. So in some instances, you might find a park that's geared to 15 to 18-year-olds or 12 to 16-year-olds, and here the neighborhood's turned over, and now they have toddlers and 5 to 9-year-olds. We don't know that specifically, but we wanted to make sure that if improvements were occurring in the parks, that they were age appropriate for the individuals who would be using those facilities going forward. So in a lot of instances, the equipment in the parks, which are inspected annually, have lived their useful life. And that was part of the thinking also in approaching this from a park-by-park basis.
And, excuse me, to add to that, I did look into a print version of the survey that could be filled out and mailed back to us. And it is an option, but it's a cumbersome option, and it requires a secondary action by the user to remember to drop it in the mailbox. And we think the online is just going to be a lot simpler, and it allows us to tally the results a lot easier. Again, if anybody wants to contact us directly during that window of time, that would be absolutely welcomed. And this will be coupled with a press release and an article in the paper so that everyone is informed about it. Because I understand that there is a population that isn't going to want to click on a website and do that, but they can still contact us.
And that'll be made very clear then. I know I can envision some seniors that, nah, but they can call you.
Absolutely. And that's any time. In fact, I just fielded an email yesterday from a gentleman that really wants to see some pickleball courts. And that's been a hot topic with us. We just need to know how many people want pickleball courts. So, as Jim always says, the need needs to justify the expense, so.
Okay, certainly sounds like a good idea. Questions or concerns from anyone?
So 1,600 mailings would be what, times 50 cents?
No, it would be at a bulk rate.
Oh,
It
good.
would be
How
much
would it
less
be?
than that, yes.
Out of curiosity, how much?
I don't know, it's just, what,
The bulk
8.5
rate.
cents, something?
It's
Oh,
very
wow.
It's
cheap.
substantially lower.
Wow, okay.
And that funding for this was set aside in the CIP for this year. And at the time, we didn't know what this project would turn into, or if we would need to partner with a PR firm, or, you know, what those charges would be. And it's coming in much less than that, so. Outside of mailing and a little bit of their time and talent to help get everything developed, we'll be in good shape.
Yeah, I have a question. Is with in our outlook on the community part of the neighborhood parks, sorry, are we looking at it in the future to still be a, and maybe this is where the survey will help, but a sort of a one-size-fits-all, you know, it has the playground, has the athletic fields, it has a little bit of everything that fits the neighborhood? Or are we looking possibly to maybe tailor each park to a specific demographic or a specific need? You know, you have the young children, and I think as people become more mobile, you know, people are all, you know, get in the car and go drive somewhere, go to MCP. Is that thought, or has that ever been a thought to make them more specific towards a certain thing? You know, you have, let's say,
That's
you know,
the intent of the survey, is to try to serve the demographic. Because what you find in these neighborhood parks, at one time, they may have been of only two or three parks in the entire municipality. And so they were developed that way. For example, in Kowalski, there's a asphalt court there that has, I think, what, 3 basketball courts?
Oh, at least.
Yeah. But the age group in Kowalski, I can tell you, isn't playing basketball. But that may be an ideal location if there's a demand for a pickleball court. So if we go into these neighborhood parks, identify some of the facilities that are there that aren't serving the population, but could serve the general population, we'll take a look at that, rather than going out and building a new one, rehabbing what we have. But the daily activity in the parks, we'd hope to gear it towards the demographics of the neighborhood, and that's why we're surveying it.
Okay.
And we saw it at the Parks and Recreation meeting. When the weather was nicer, we were meeting at those parks and having our meeting there at a pavilion, and you got that from just the people that were passing by. Is, you know, they wanted to tell you everything about, you know, all people do is walk their dog here, or, you know, they're all little kids, or no one shot a basketball in that court in 10 years. Like, so I think this survey is going to be crucial to, you know, tailor what they're going to do for each of those parks. I think it's really
There's no return in us maintaining a tennis or basketball court if nobody's using it. And if it has a greater good for the community, then let's look at that.
Yeah.
I think, yeah.
We'll be promoting the survey. I mean, like the Penn Franklin, there'll be an ad saying, the survey's coming, blah, blah, blah.
Yes.
Okay.
It'll be on our website, social media. We'll make it widely available.
You know, I would hope that with this coming back too, it may show us again. We'll use the basketball court idea again. That instead of each park having a basketball court, even if there's a desire you see across the board, put more funds into one court in one park. And I look at Newhouse. Have you been up to Newhouse lately?
Yeah.
Right.
They did a great job up there. It's beautiful.
Yep.
Something like that, you know.
Make that the destination
Yes.
for that sport.
Yes. So if you're playing basketball,
Right.
there on that side of.
Put our money where it can be used.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Did a nice job.
Might not be a bad idea on that. I like that thing, if we could put that in the paper, even because your QR code's there.
Right.
Like the actual, that card, you know what I mean? That might be good, just in case it gets lost in the mail a little bit. To some people, a
Absolutely,
lot of
that's a
people
good idea.
read that paper.
And my only concern is that when you look at demographics, demographics change.
Right.
So if you're changing these parks massively with lots of money to change them, and I don't know if that would be the case, but tennis courts are expensive, and I love tennis, but tennis was big at one point, it died at one point, there's sort of a resurgence on it, pickleball, but again, demographics change. So at least being able to adapt, I like the idea that if you're going to have pickleball somewhere, you don't have it in all the communities.
Correct.
And if you're going to have tennis, you don't have it in all the communities. So that if the demographics do change, at least people have a place to go for basketball or tennis or whatever
Right.
they're doing. So.
Because right now, a lot of the neighborhood parks that we have, they all have the same amenity.
Right.
It's just, they were just carbon copies of each other whenever they were built.
Right.
So I think that's what we're going to try to get away from, or at least make sure that what's there is necessary.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions or concerns? Sounds like a great idea.
Thank you.
All right, that brings us to our council action items. Thank you, Carly. Can I have a motion for 13A, please?
Motion to consider approval of resolution number 740-21, amending the 2021 operating budget.
Second.
Thank you, Carl and Jamie. Now, we've talked about it in public hearing. It was earlier in the agenda. Any final questions or concerns before we vote on this? Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. That brings us to 13B, and this is can I have a motion for 13B?
I'd like to make a motion to advertise the ordinance number 1050-21, an ordinance that provides for the demolition of dangerous structures in the municipality of Murrysville.
Second.
Thank you, Jamie and Tony.
We had talked about this at the last meeting. We're trying to update both the property maintenance code and the dangerous structure ordinance that have been on the books since, I believe, the 60s. So this would create an ordinance and a process for identifying blighted structures and eventually either having them repaired or removing the structures.
Okay. It sounds like it's about time, but questions or concerns from council in regards to the advertisement?
Well, while this is, I guess, on the front burner, I'll ask, how many properties have we identified, have been identified previous to this that would fall under this?
There's
Approximately.
a number. Right now, we have a current list of 12.
Okay.
But as Ed mentioned, and one of them just came up today, once the municipality takes the action to identify as a blighted structure, it usually brings people forward. And most often, they end up getting flipped. People will come in and buy them from the previous property owner if the property owner can be identified. And they come in and they rehab the structure. So we've had more success with that than tearing them down.
Good.
Okay. Any other questions or concerns? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? All right, motion passes. Can I have a motion for 13C, please?
I'd like to consider a motion to authorize staff to solicit bids for the lease of oil and gas rights for approximately 8.43 acres of municipality-owned property. Tax number 49-16-11-075, Padora Park, and 49-16-14-01-199, a detention pond facility in the Springview Plan of Lots.
Second.
Thank you, Tony and Lauren. We had discussion about this earlier. Any questions or concerns about the advertisement? Okay, hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion passes. 13D, please.
I'll make a motion to consider a motion to authorize staff to advertise ordinance number 1053-21, an ordinance accepting a lease and gas, or a lease for oil and gas rights for approximately 8.43 acres of municipally owned property, tax number 49-16-11-0-075, Padora Park, and 49-16-14-01-199, a detention pond facility in the Springview plan of lots.
Second.
Mac and Tony, questions or concerns about the ordinance, or the advertisement for the ordinance, I should say?
I'd just like to mention that I don't know if you guys have been out to Bollinger Road, but there's been some major work done out there. They're getting ready to drill, and this has brought these actions necessary because they want all of the properties that are going to be leased within the unit to be leased by the end of January. And this is why it's such on an expedited process. In order to advertise the ordinance and meet the requirements of the Home Rule Charter, we're going to be required to advertise this in both the Penn Franklin and the Greensburg Trib. And I just wanted to bring that to council's attention.
Okay, thanks, Jim. Questions or concerns? Okay, hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion passes. That brings us to 13E. Can I have a motion, please?
Motion to consider approval of ordinance 103821, an ordinance amending Murrysville Code, Chapter 126, Article 2, Section 20610, to increase the earned income tax rate from 1/2, that's 0.50, of 1%, to 7/10, that's 0.70, of 1%, for the Municipality of Murrysville's use alone for the tax year 2022, commencing January 1st, 2022 through December 31st, 2022, and continuing in effect for each year thereafter unless otherwise revised by ordinance of Murrysville Council.
Second.
Thank you, Carl and Tony. Jim, is there any preamble?
This is just the ordinance to implement the staff's recommendation to fund the 2022 budget.
Okay, thank you, Jim. Now, council, I'm sure there's going to be a lot to say about this. Who would like to start? Okay, I will.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'll just start by saying that I think I speak for everyone on this council that we're very unhappy that we're the first council in 14 years that has to consider a tax increase. But after 14 years, I believe it's been forced to a binary choice between cut services or raise taxes. And I personally do not support cutting services. As to why it's the EIT and the real estate transfer tax as opposed to the property taxes, for me, what it comes down to is the Pennsylvania legislature has created a tax system where property owners are forced to bear the brunt of pretty much every local government tax increase. And what this council has a chance to do is just divert a little bit of that burden in a different direction away from our property owners. And that's why, again, I hate to do it, but if there has to be a tax increase, I believe this is the right way to do it. Anyone else?
I agree with you. I'd also say that I think that it's something that's fair that the EIT, along with the real estate transfer tax, it basically creates a balance. You know, it affects the community as a whole, and then EIT, you know, does for the wage earners. And it's actually kind of a generational thing, meaning the people that are working and can, if you will, provide funds that will benefit themselves and also the community and the seniors in the community as well.
Any other comments, concerns from council before we vote?
I think that the staffs look at this and councils look at this entire thing is we looked at all options that were available to us, and I think what we were looking for is into the future of Murrysville. It's in no way any type of knee-jerk reaction to any budget existing now. We're looking at how are we setting Murrysville on a path to be able to have the correct tax base to utilize and maintain all of the amenities that we have within the community. And, you know, I think we've looked at it from every angle we could possibly look at it. We've specified it to exactly what we feel that increase should be, as opposed to, you know, at the beginning it was up to a certain percent. We waited and looked at exactly what that would be. And then, you know, we asked the community for input, and, you know, aside of a few oppositions to it and a few that you could count on one hand, from 20-some thousand residents, you know, I think it's just the right maneuver to do for the community. So
I think I'll piggyback on everything that's been said, but the one thing I would slightly disagree with, it's not that we're the first council to consider raising taxes. Since I've come along, I don't know, 6 or so years ago, this has been considered, it's been discussed. You know, I follow social media actively. I, like all of you, get the phone calls, the emails, the letters. The 20,000 residents that we are representing generally do seem to support this, not because any of us want taxes to be raised, but because we do want a community that does offer the highest level of service. In social media, and some of the folks who have spoken out against this, it's been, I can count on one hand, but they've said things like, well, if I could change things, I would say you need to implement competitive bidding. We've done that for years. Or they'll say, well, maybe we should complete some work in-house. We've also done that for years. This is not a knee-jerk reaction. This is not us suddenly trying to pivot and go, oh, well, we'll just push it to right after the election, and then we'll raise our taxes so that we can benefit in some way. It doesn't benefit us. It's not cowardice to say, okay, community, you've asked us to hold for a minute and look at this again. We've been looking at it for 12 plus years, but okay, we'll look at it again. You know, I think the election has spoken loud and clear in recent years. Folks who wanted to run on a platform against taxes, we see where that landed. We don't want to raise taxes either. I can tell you for me personally now, and stepping away from speaking for council, I grew up in this community. I ran on a platform for my election years ago that I grew up here. I moved away because I think a lot of young people want to move away where they grew up. They want to see the world, and I did. And then I realized as I was approaching my 30s and I was closing in on being able to afford a house, I realized that Murrysville was a more expensive place to buy a house, and I was really going to have to budget carefully to do that. But I wanted to settle down. I wanted to start a family. This is where I wanted to do it because this is the community that gave me those benefits. And I realized, I knew from the beginning, I was never going to send my kids to Franklin Regional. I'm Catholic. My kids go to Catholic school. They don't even go to Catholic school in Murrysville. They go out of town. So I was willing to pay the taxes from the school district and from the community to be able to provide what I believed would be best for the family that I didn't even have. And I was willing to put the money into the community because I wanted to continue to build something great. To the point of the two taxes that we're raising, a lot of people keep harping on the earned income tax and saying, why are you discriminating? I don't feel that it's discriminatory, but all taxes affect somebody. I benefited a lot from this community, and I benefited particularly from the folks who helped to build this community and who were the backbone of this community. I have no problem saying right now, I've lost sleep over the years thinking about our budget. I lose no sleep right now knowing that I'm going to be contributing to not pricing our seniors out of their homes. I've delivered Meals on Wheels through this community, and I've delivered Meals on Wheels to lonely folks who live in our mansions, and I've delivered Meals on Wheels to folks that I could see them through the hole in the side of their trailer or their shack in Murrysville because they didn't have the money to have adequate walls and housing around them. But that's where they wanted to age in place, and that's where they wanted to live. I will not be a council member who contributes to aging folks out of their homes. As far as the real estate transfer tax, again, I understand people want to object. I don't think we're setting a precedent in any way. The city of Greensburg increased the real estate transfer tax, I believe, effective in 2021. I know they had similar concerns about housing, but we saw where the market went last year. That was unpredictable, but They saw unprecedented home sales. They saw people buying houses sight unseen, just like we did, bids far over market value. The truth is, you don't know what's going to happen to the housing market either. We don't know how this tax will or won't affect potential another pandemic. We don't know that. But we do know that we are looking at a very balanced approach, the best that we are capable of doing. We've considered this for years. When staff, Mr. Morrison says that staff has made recommendations, I want to be very clear. Staff made recommendations because it's their job. They are hired to forecast the budget. They are hired to make recommendations to council. But I don't want there to be any mistake that council hasn't been fully aware of this. This is not a council going, thanks for telling us what to do. We have all spent countless hours reviewing the recommendations, asking questions, losing sleep. And I can't speak for everybody else on this, but I won't lose sleep anymore on this. I believe we are doing the best to represent all of the residents and what they want and what they need to continue to attract young families and let our seniors keep their homes.
Thank you.
And I think everybody has said, well said, what has happened, the need to have it happen, what has happened in the past, why we have to do it. I just want to re-emphasize what I believe when, people stand up and say, well, it's only a part of the community that you are taxing. And I don't think that's true because, as Diane said, everybody pays without question every single year the cost of increase of the school district. And I think that's wonderful because the school district puts out a great amount of kids with great talent. But if you want to keep those kids in this community, you still have to have a great community. Those taxes don't provide for the community. We have to provide for the community through the municipality. So it's not certain people are paying for certain things. I think everybody, as eloquently as Jamie Lee has said, everybody benefits from these taxes. And I too will not lose sleep over what we need to do as a municipality to keep this community and our parks and the reason that people stay here with their children in this community. So I agree. Thank you.
Absolutely. Okay.
The only thing I'd like to say is this is not a new tax. It's not like we came up with a new tax. The EIT tax has been here for years. So
everywhere.
People shouldn't be surprised. Now, if we were coming up with an EIT tax that they never had, well, then you could say, well, we're trying to put a new tax into the area. But it's not a new tax. It's an existing tax that we're adding to very slightly that does benefit most of the people. It doesn't benefit the seniors. And as everybody said, I've been retired for 10 years. I'm still paying for the kids to go to school, just like Diane said. And we could start fighting that. We don't want to pay the school taxes. What are you going to do about it? You have to do it. Like you say, it's taxes, you've got to pay your taxes. But the EIT was nothing new. And they act like, where did we get this EIT tax? It's been here for years. So I'm all for it. And I don't think the seniors really benefit because the seniors are paying one way or the other. And they paid for years, and nobody complained.
To address a few comments that were even made tonight, and especially what Tony said, I agree. It has been here. It's been everywhere. It's been everywhere. So I think that point has been cleared up. I think that was a great comment. And the question was asked tonight: how long? How much time? It was said, how much time do we spend trying to decrease costs? I would say at least 14 years. Yeah. At least, at minimum, 14 years, and it's proven itself. In 14 years, with tremendous increase in costs of goods and services, the staff has done a phenomenal job at managing to keep Murrysville, well, not just maintain, but to increase services to make it a better community in that time without increasing taxes. So, and this is really relative, very small step. The question was asked too was, is it a makeup for 14 years of no increase? And no, it isn't. Not at all. I mean, not even. It's really a relatively small increase. And importantly too, and it's again the question is asked of us this evening, almost spoken as if we aren't affected by it as well. I guess I'll end with that. We are affected by every single decision that is made up here. So, yes, this decision is felt by everybody. Again, I think it's important and necessary. I think it's been very well managed, very, very well managed, and I think it will continue to be. But costs go up.
Thank you, Lloyd. Any other questions or concerns from council?
Just for clarification, it says we're advertising costs at the bottom here, the impact on the budget. Like Roman numeral 5 on the, what are we advertising? To me, my understanding is that we're approving it.
That's right. Well, that's just a carryover from the previous agreement.
Okay.
The cost to advertise the ordinances.
Okay.
The motion was
Okay.
to raise it, correct?
Correct. It was the approval of the ordinance.
Okay.
Increase the earned income tax rate from 1/2. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
nothing-
No, no amendments necessary.
Okay.
Okay. So the motion has been perfected. Any questions or concerns from council? Okay. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Thank you, council. That brings us to 13F. Can I have a motion, please?
I'd like to make a motion to approve ordinance number 1048-21. An ordinance amending the Municipality of Murrysville Code Part 2, General Legislation, Chapter 206 Taxation, Article 6 Real Estate Transfer Tax, Section 206-52, a tax on the transfer of title to real property, to increase the rate of transfer tax for Murrysville from 1/2 of 1% to 1% for the Municipality of Murrysville's use alone, shall commence in tax year 2022 and continue in effect for each year thereafter, unless otherwise revised by ordinance of Murrysville Council.
Second.
Jamie and Tony. Now, I believe we probably commented on this in our previous item. Is there anything to add by anyone before we vote? Okay. Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Okay, thank you, council. That brings us to item 13G. May I have a motion, please?
I'll make a motion to consider authorization to enter into an agreement with Zelenkovsky Axelrod LLC for consulting services for the administration of the American Rescue Funds.
Second.
Let's go Mac and Tony. Jim?
Yes, as you know, the municipality was eligible to receive almost $2 million in American Rescue Funds to be used on various programs and expenditures. They provided an interim set of rules and regulations. They said that by October they'd have their final rulemaking. That hasn't happened. It's not expected to happen until December, if then. And it's very scary to begin to deal with federal funds and not having a clear picture and direction, because it might not be found out this year, but 2 years from now, 3 years from now, it could cause problems. With that, staff began to investigate alternatives to provide support in developing a program for the expenditure of these funds. It found that this CPA firm was hired by Westmoreland County and by the Pennsylvania State Association of Second-Class Townships, and came recommended to provide the list of services that was provided for you in your Dropbox. So we were able to negotiate a price of roughly 1% of the total funds available to be spent. Now, Not saying other communities were able to get it at 1%, but they weren't. So I would recommend that we consider bringing these people on board to help us move forward with this.
Jim, a question there. You mentioned that, were we not to have this group monitoring or looking after this, that, a year or 2 or 3 years down the road, we may be approached by the federal government saying you did something wrong, blah, blah, blah. Now that we have them, or if we decide that we will have them, do they bear some liability on this?
They're a professional organization. I would assume they carry professional liability just like we do. And if their advice is bad, then they have a responsibility there.
I would agree with that.
Okay.
Okay. Any other questions or concerns about the accounting firm? All right. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. That brings us to 13H. Can I have a motion, please?
I'd like to make a motion to consider authorization to allocate a sum not to exceed $12,000 from the general fund contingency line item for the purchase and installation of 2 new furnaces for the community center.
Second the motion.
Thank you, Tony and Carl. Jim?
Yes, there's actually 3 heating units down at the community center. About a week or so ago, the 2 units that heat the the senior center and the other offices down there went at the same time. And the 3rd one went on election day. We still haven't put a number on that yet. However, we need council's authorization to expend funds out of the contingency line item, so we bring this to you. We were able to buy the furnaces off of the CoStar State program, and we're able to negotiate a installation charge with a local HVAC company.
Questions or concerns from council? All right. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Motion passes. 14A was removed from the agenda, so that brings us to 15A. Could I have a motion, please?
I'd like to make a motion to consider the reduction of a bond being held to ensure completion of the required improvements at Murrysville Racket Club in the amount of $101,536.40.
Second.
Thank you, Tony and Mac. Jim?
This is a partial release on the improvements being done down at the Racket Club that was approved by council. They received delivery of the materials there, and excavation and construction have been completed and inspected by the municipality and recommended release.
Okay. Any questions or concerns?
Considering our past experiences with the Racket Club, have we
Got an eye on
it's
it.
been thorough?
Yeah.
All right.
I am concerned in the gentleman's last message to us in person that they understand there were some issues with the glazing, for example. That's all been fixed. I took pictures from the trail this weekend for the Halloween. It has not been fixed. It looks terrible.
The building?
I understand that we're talking about a different piece now, but I want to just echo Lauren that I hope that we continue to be exceptionally vigilant, particularly with that property, particularly that when it was initially approved, it was not highly visible, but things shift within the municipality and from the trail now. It's an eyesore. It's embarrassing.
Mm-hmm. Mm.
Okay, absolutely.
The part you're saying of that has nothing to do with this.
No, it doesn't. I just want
That's
to
from
echo
the
that.
past one.
And
So that should have never been released.
No, and in a recent meeting, the
made
owner made a remark that those issues have since been rectified. They have not.
I see.
So the owner is still not being truthful. I have pictures from, was it Saturday or Sunday? Life's a blur with little ones, but you know, it looks terrible. There's pieces of the faux glazing, and I don't even know what they're calling it now, the styrofoam that's crumbling and peeling off and broken and cracked. And so just hope that we emphasize to staff that we continue to be concerned about that property. I appreciate an exceptionally thorough review this time for the release of this bond money, but I hope that we are cautious going forward.
I believe we can absolutely say that, code enforcement can go down there, and if they see issues not being followed, right off the bat, that sounds like a property maintenance code issue.
I'd like to see that.
Okay.
Happy to send my photos.
Jim?
Okay, absolutely.
Any questions or concerns, though, about this specific bond?
No.
Okay. We had a motion. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion passes. Do we have any old business tonight?
No, sir.
Thank you. Any new business?
No.
All right, no executive session. One more motion, please.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Second.
All right. We're adjourned. Thanks, everybody.
All righty.